I'm Amber Wilson, 26 years old, and I've always believed family meant fairness and love. Last Christmas changed everything. Standing in my parents' driveway, watching snowflakes settle on my sister Heather's brand new BMW, while my 12-year-old Honda sputtered in the background, was a moment I'll never forget. The $45,000 car gleamed with its giant red bow while my empty hands grew cold in my pockets. Somehow, I managed to smile through the family photos, but inside, something was breaking. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories about family dynamics that shaped who I am today. Life had never been easy for me, but I'd always taken pride in making my own way. As an assistant manager at Cornerstone Marketing, I worked 50-hour weeks trying to prove myself worthy of the full manager position. My small one-bedroom apartment in the less desirable part of town wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, paid for with my own hard-earned money. Every month, I diligently sent $400 toward my student loans, still $32,000 to go after 5 years of payments. The finance degree had been worth it, but the debt was a constant weight on my shoulders. My car situation had become increasingly problematic. The 2011 Honda Civic had served me well through college and my early career, but at 175,000 miles, it was showing its age. The transmission had been slipping for months, the air conditioning had stopped working last summer, and the check engine light had become a permanent fixture on my dashboard. Just 3 weeks before Christmas, I'd been stranded on the highway when the car suddenly died during my commute home. The $800 repair bill had decimated my modest savings. During our weekly Sunday phone call after that incident, I'd mentioned the car troubles to my parents. "That sounds rough, honey," my mom Karen had said, her voice sympathetic but distracted. "Have you thought about looking for something newer?" "I've been saving," I replied, "but between the student loans and rent, it's slow going." My dad Thomas had gotten on the line then. "Well, Christmas is coming up. Maybe Santa will be good to you this year," he'd said with a chuckle. It wasn't a promise, but it had given me hope. My family had always been comfortable financially. Dad was a successful architect with his own small firm, and Mom worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative. They lived in the same 4-bedroom colonial in an upscale suburb where I'd grown up. They weren't wealthy, but they had always been generous, especially with my younger sister. Heather was the baby of the family at 22, still in her final year at the State University studying fashion design. She'd always been the favored child, though my parents would vehemently deny it if confronted. It started in subtle ways. She got the bigger bedroom, her artwork dominated the refrigerator, and her activities always seemed to take precedence over mine on the family calendar. As we grew older, the disparity became more noticeable. When I turned 16, I received driving lessons and access to the family's old minivan. When Heather turned 16, she got a new Volkswagen Beetle. When I graduated high school with honors, I received a laptop for college. When Heather graduated with a B average, she got a laptop plus a trip to Paris for fashion inspiration. I never complained. I understood that circumstances change, and perhaps my parents were in a better financial position when Heather reached these milestones. The pattern continued through our adult years. Last Christmas, I had received a nice sweater and a $100 gift card to Amazon. Heather had received a diamond bracelet and a weekend spa package. Again, I said nothing. I was an adult with a career, while Heather was still a student. It made sense that they would support her more. But this year felt different. My car was literally falling apart. I had mentioned it repeatedly during our Thanksgiving visit, even showing Dad the mechanic's assessment of all the work that needed to be done. "This thing is on its last legs," he had agreed, peering under the hood. "Probably not worth putting much more money into it." "I know," I'd said, trying to sound casual. "I'm just not sure what to do. The used car market is so expensive right now." He had patted my shoulder. "Christmas is coming up. Let's see what happens." That conversation had replayed in my mind repeatedly as December progressed. Was he hinting at a substantial Christmas gift? Perhaps some help with a down payment on a reliable used car? I didn't expect a brand new vehicle. That would be excessive, but maybe some financial assistance toward solving my transportation problem. My best friend Julia had cautioned me against getting my hopes up when I called her the night before driving to my parents' house for the holidays. "Your parents have always favored Heather," she reminded me gently. "I just don't want you to be disappointed." "I know, but Dad practically hinted at it," I insisted. "And they know how badly I need a car. My Honda might not even make it through winter." "Just prepare yourself for anything," Julia advised. "And remember, you can call me anytime during the holidays if you need to vent." I'd packed up my car with presents and overnight bags, checking the oil and coolant levels before the tower drive to my parents' house. The Honda made an ominous rattling noise the entire journey, but it got me there on Christmas Eve. I pulled into the driveway behind my dad's Audi and my mom's Lexus SUV, feeling optimistic despite the visible rust spots and dented fender on my vehicle. The house looked like something from a Christmas card. White lights outlining the roof, a wreath on the door, and a glimpse of the massive tree through the front window. For a moment, I felt like a child again, filled with that magical Christmas anticipation. This was going to be a good holiday. I could feel it. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight reflecting off fresh snow that had fallen overnight. The familiar smell of my mom's cinnamon rolls and coffee wafted up to my childhood bedroom, now converted to a guest room but still painted in the soft blue I'd chosen as a teenager. For a moment, I lay there soaking in the comfort of being home before heading downstairs to join the family. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," Mom exclaimed, already dressed in a festive red sweater, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. She handed me a mug of coffee, prepared just how I liked it, 1 sugar, splash of cream. "The cinnamon rolls smell amazing," I said, giving her a hug. Dad looked up from his newspaper, eyes crinkling as he smiled. "There she is. We thought you might sleep till noon." "And miss Christmas morning?" "Never," I replied, taking a seat at the kitchen island. Heather bounced into the kitchen last, still in pajamas, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun. "Merry Christmas. Can we open presents after breakfast?" "I can't wait anymore." Mom laughed. "Just like when you were little. Some things never change." Breakfast was a leisurely affair, filled with family stories and laughter. I savored every bite of the cinnamon rolls, a family recipe passed down from my grandmother, and tried to stay present in the moment rather than wondering about what gifts awaited under the tree. When we finally moved to the living room, the Christmas tree was a spectacle of twinkling lights and ornaments, many of them handmade by Heather and me throughout our childhood. Presents in various shapes and sizes were arranged underneath, wrapped in coordinating papers and ribbons, my mother's touch. Dad played Santa as he always did, distributing gifts one by one so everyone could watch each person's reaction. I received a soft blue cashmere sweater from Mom, a $150 Amazon gift card from Dad, and a cookbook featuring international desserts from Heather. All thoughtful gifts that I genuinely appreciated. Heather's pile grew substantially larger than mine. She unwrapped a pair of designer boots she'd been coveting, a rose gold necklace with a substantial diamond pendant, a new iPad, and several smaller items. Her squeals of delight punctuated the morning, and I found myself genuinely happy for her. After all, she was still in school, and I remembered how hard those years could be. After all the wrapped presents had been opened, I began gathering the discarded paper, mentally calculating what I might put the Amazon gift card toward. Perhaps a repair manual for my car, or maybe some professional development books. Dad cleared his throat dramatically. "Wait, everyone. There's one more surprise." He exchanged a conspiratorial look with Mom. "This one is too big to wrap. We need to go outside for this one." My heart leaped. This was it, the moment I'd been anticipating. Dad's hint about Christmas and my car troubles had been leading to this. I tried to contain my excitement as we all bundled up in coats and boots. "What is it?" Heather asked, bouncing on her toes. "You'll see," Mom replied, her phone already out, presumably to record the reaction. We filed out the front door, and there in the driveway sat a brand new BMW 3 Series sedan, metallic blue, with a massive red bow on the roof. It gleamed in the winter sunlight, not a scratch or smudge to be seen. I estimated it must have cost at least $45,000. For a moment, I stood frozen, waiting for someone to look at me, to say my name. But then Dad reached into his pocket and pulled out a key fob. "Heather," he announced with a broad smile, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." My sister's scream of excitement pierced the cold air as she launched herself at Dad, nearly knocking him over with her enthusiastic hug. "Oh my God. Are you serious? It's mine? A BMW? I can't believe it!" The world seemed to slow down around me. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears as I watched Heather jump up and down, tears of joy streaming down her face. Mom was filming everything, directing Heather to stand next to her new car. Dad was pointing out features through the window: leather seats, navigation system, premium sound. And there I stood, completely forgotten in the commotion, the same broken-down Honda that had barely made it home for Christmas sitting just behind the gleaming new BMW. "This is the best Christmas ever," Heather exclaimed, opening the driver's door to sit inside. I managed to plaster a smile on my face, though it felt like my cheeks might crack from the effort. "Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations, Heather." No one seemed to notice the strain in my voice. Dad beamed with pride. "Isn't this great?" Heather needed a reliable car for campus and her internship interviews next semester. No more taking the bus. Mom turned to me, still filming. "Amber, go stand with your sister for a picture by the car." I complied, the smile still frozen on my face as I posed beside my ecstatic sister, who couldn't stop running her hands over the steering wheel. Through the viewfinder of her phone, my mother didn't notice my eyes weren't smiling. "We got a great deal," Dad was explaining to our elderly neighbor who had wandered over to see the commotion. "End-of-year clearance, plus I know the sales manager." The irony wasn't lost on me. My parents had spent enough on Heather's car to pay off most of my remaining student loans or to buy me a reliable used vehicle plus have money left over. And yet there I stood, with a cookbook and a gift card, my dying Honda forgotten at the edge of the driveway. "Take it for a spin, honey," Mom encouraged Heather, who didn't need to be told twice. She reversed carefully out of the driveway while the family watched proudly. "Aren't you going to go with her?" Dad asked me. "I think she's enjoying her moment," I replied, my voice carefully neutral. "I'll ride with her later." As we headed back inside, not a single family member mentioned my car situation or acknowledged the stark contrast between the gifts Heather and I had received. It was as if my transportation problems had never been discussed, as if my father had never hinted at Christmas bringing a solution. I retreated to the kitchen, volunteering to start preparing vegetables for the Christmas dinner, needing a moment alone to process my feelings. By 2 o'clock, the house was filled with extended family for Christmas dinner. Grandma Dorothy and Grandpa Frank arrived first, followed by Dad's sister Aunt Martha and her husband Uncle Dave with their teenage kids. Mom's brother Uncle Paul and his wife Aunt Stephanie completed the gathering. The new BMW was, predictably, the primary topic of conversation. Heather had taken nearly everyone for a ride around the block, proudly demonstrating the backup camera and Bluetooth capabilities. I busied myself in the kitchen, helping Mom with final dinner preparations while making small talk with relatives. "So how's work going?" Uncle Paul asked me as I arranged dinner rolls in a basket. "It's good," I replied. "I'm hoping for a promotion to full manager next year." "That's my ambitious niece," he said with approval. Always the career woman. Aunt Martha joined us, wine glass in hand. "Amber, I noticed you're still driving the Honda. Is it holding up okay?" Those older models can be so reliable. I froze momentarily, my hand hovering over the bread basket. "It's having some issues, actually. The transmission is going, and there are some engine problems." "Oh dear," she said, frowning. "That's expensive to fix. Are you looking at replacing it?" Before I could answer, Mom interjected from across the kitchen. "Dinner's ready. Everyone to the dining room, please." I caught Aunt Martha giving Mom a questioning look, but nothing more was said as we all moved to take our seats around the extended dining table. Dinner was a lavish affair: turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, 3 different vegetable sides, homemade rolls, and cranberry sauce. Dad carved the turkey while everyone chatted about holiday plans and caught up on family news. I participated in the conversation, laughed at Uncle Dave's corny jokes, and complimented Mom on the food, all while feeling increasingly disconnected from the celebration. "So Heather," Grandpa Frank said between bites, "that's quite a car your parents got you. You must have been a very good girl this year." He winked at her. Heather beamed. "I know. I still can't believe it. It's literally my dream car. It's important to have reliable transportation," Dad added. "Especially with Heather starting her internship at that fashion magazine downtown next semester." "What about you, Amber?" Grandma Dorothy asked quietly from beside me. "Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas?" I felt several pairs of eyes turn toward me. "The sweater from Mom is perfect for work, and I've been wanting this cookbook for a while," I answered diplomatically. Grandma Dorothy's eyes held mine for a moment too long. She had always been perceptive. "And the gift card will come in handy," I added quickly, breaking eye contact to reach for the gravy. The conversation moved on, but I noticed Grandma watching me throughout the meal, her expression thoughtful. After dinner, while most of the family moved to the living room for coffee and dessert, Grandma Dorothy found me loading the dishwasher in the kitchen. "Let me help you with that," she said, picking up a dish towel to dry the serving platters that wouldn't fit in the dishwasher. "Thanks, Grandma." We worked in companionable silence for a moment before she spoke again. "You know, it's okay to feel disappointed sometimes, especially when it seems like things aren't fair." I kept my eyes on the plate I was rinsing. "I don't know what you mean." Grandma made a soft humming sound. "I think you do. I may be old, but I'm not blind. That car out there cost more than my first house, and meanwhile, I heard you telling Martha about your car troubles." My throat tightened. "It's fine. Heather's still in school. She needs their support more than I do." "Is that what they told you?" Grandma asked, her voice gentle but direct. I didn't answer, focusing intently on scrubbing a pot that was already clean. Grandma put down her towel and placed a wrinkled hand on my arm. "Your grandfather and I raised your father to treat people fairly, especially family. Sometimes I wonder if we succeeded." "Dad's a good father," I said automatically. "Yes, but good people can still make mistakes. Especially when they don't realize they're making them." She patted my hand. "Just remember your worth isn't measured by the gifts you receive or even by how your parents treat you." Before I could respond, Heather burst into the kitchen. "There you are, Amber. I was looking for you. Want to go for a drive in my new car? I'll let you pick the music." I plastered on another smile. "Maybe later. I'm helping Grandma with the dishes." "Suit yourself," Heather shrugged. "Dad and I are going to program all the radio stations." "That sound system is incredible." She grabbed a cookie from the counter and bounced back out. Grandma and I exchanged a look. "Does she even realize?" Grandma asked softly. "I don't think so," I replied. "And it's not her fault. She's just excited about her gift." As the evening progressed, the tension inside me continued to build. Every mention of the BMW, every excited conversation about its features, every plan Heather made for road trips with her friends felt like salt in a wound I hadn't realized was so deep. Around 8 o'clock, Heather cornered me on the couch. "Seriously, we should go for a drive. You're the only person who hasn't been in it yet." "I'm pretty tired, Heather." "Come on, it'll be fun. You can see how much smoother it is than your old junker." I stiffened. "My junker got me through college and has been reliable for years." Heather rolled her eyes. "Yeah, but now it's basically falling apart. You said yourself it barely made it here for Christmas." "Not everyone gets a brand new BMW handed to them," I said, my voice sharper than intended. Heather blinked, surprised by my tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I backtracked, suddenly aware that several relatives were within earshot. "I'm just tired. It's been a long day." "Whatever," Heather replied, clearly offended. "I was just trying to include you." She walked away to join our cousins, throwing a hurt look over her shoulder. I immediately felt guilty. It wasn't her fault our parents had made these choices. But the guilt quickly gave way to more resentment as I heard her enthusiastically describing the car's 0 to 60 acceleration to our teenage cousin Dylan. By 10 o'clock, I excused myself to bed, claiming exhaustion from the festivities. In the privacy of my childhood bedroom, I finally let the tears fall. I called Julia, keeping my voice low. "It happened just like you warned me," I whispered, recounting the day's events. Oh, Amber, I'm so sorry, Julia said. That's incredibly hurtful. The worst part is that no one even acknowledged it. Dad specifically mentioned my car problems at Thanksgiving and hinted that Christmas might bring a solution. And then, nothing. Not even a mention. What are you going to do? I wiped my eyes. I don't know. Probably just get through the next few days and go home. What can I say? Thanks for the gift card, but why did my sister get a luxury vehicle? Maybe you should say exactly that, Julia suggested. They might not even realize how it looks. Trust me, they know. They just don't care, I said bitterly. I'm going to try to leave tomorrow instead of staying through the weekend. I can't take 2 more days of BMW worship. After hanging up, I set my alarm for early the next morning, planning to pack and leave before the family breakfast. As I lay in bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I had stuck to the ceiling as a child, I wondered what I had done to make my parents value me so much less than my sister. The question followed me into restless dreams. The alarm on my phone jolted me awake at 6:30 the next morning. The house was quiet as I slipped out of bed and began gathering my things, folding the new sweater carefully and placing it in my overnight bag along with the cookbook and gift card. I moved quietly, not wanting to wake anyone and face questions about my early departure. My plan was derailed when I entered the kitchen to find Mom already there, preparing coffee and reviewing a recipe book. "You're up early," she noted, looking surprised. "I thought you'd sleep in." "I'm planning a big breakfast casserole." "Actually," I said, setting my bag down, "I was thinking of heading back to the city today. I have some work to catch up on before the office reopens." Mom frowned. "Today? But you said you'd stay through the weekend." "We were going to have our traditional day after Christmas shopping trip." "I know, but things have come up," I said vaguely. "Projects I need to finish." She studied my face, then glanced at my packed bag. "Is everything okay, Amber? You seem off." "I'm fine," I replied automatically. "Just tired." "Is this about Heather's car?" she asked abruptly. The directness of the question caught me off guard. "What?" "You've been quiet since we gave Heather the BMW. Are you upset about it?" The fact that she had noticed, but said nothing until now only fueled the resentment that had been building. "Would it matter if I was?" Mom sighed. "Honey, your sister is still in school. She needed reliable transportation for her internship. Your father and I discussed it and decided it was a good investment in her future." "And what about my future?" I asked, my voice still quiet but with an edge. "My car is literally falling apart. Dad knows that. He looked at it at Thanksgiving." "You have a job, Amber. You're independent. We've always been proud of how self-sufficient you are. So I'm being punished for being responsible?" I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. The kitchen door swung open, and Dad walked in, already dressed for the day. "What's going on?" I heard voices. "Amber's upset about Heather's car," Mom said before I could respond. Dad's expression hardened slightly. "Is that why you're sneaking out early? Because of the BMW?" "I'm not sneaking out," I defended. "And it's not just about the car. It's about—" I struggled to articulate years of feeling less valued. "It's about the disparity. The cookbook and gift card versus a $45,000 vehicle." "Now you're counting dollars?" Dad asked, his tone disapproving. "That's petty, Amber. I expected better from you." The accusation stung. "It's not about the money. It's about the message it sends. You knew my car was barely running. You even hinted that Christmas might bring a solution. And you assumed that meant we were buying you a car?" Dad's voice rose slightly. "You're an adult with a career. Heather is a student." "I didn't expect a new car," I clarified, my own voice rising to match his. "But maybe some help with a down payment? Or even acknowledgement of my situation." "You didn't even mention it. Why are you being so dramatic about this?" Dad asked, throwing his hands up in exasperation. That's when something inside me snapped. "Dramatic? My car broke down on the highway last month. I had to use my emergency fund to fix it. I mentioned this to both of you multiple times. And then I come home to watch you give my sister a luxury vehicle while I get a cookbook and a gift card that wouldn't even cover one car payment on that BMW. And I'm being dramatic for feeling hurt by that." Mom stepped between us. "Lower your voice, Amber. You're going to wake everyone up." "Why does it matter?" Wouldn't want the family to see the golden child getting less attention for once. The words were out before I could stop them. Golden child. Mom repeated, looking genuinely confused. What are you talking about? Heather. Your favorite. The one who always gets the best of everything. That's ridiculous, Dad scoffed. We don't have favorites. Really? I challenged. Bigger bedroom growing up. New Volkswagen at 16 while I got driving lessons and the old minivan. Trip to Paris for high school graduation. Diamond bracelet last Christmas. And now a BMW. Shall I continue? Those were different circumstances, Mom defended. And you never said anything about feeling this way before. Would it have made a difference if I had? I asked. Before either could answer, Heather appeared in the doorway, her expression a mixture of confusion and hurt. What's going on? Why is everyone yelling? Your sister is jealous of your new car, Dad said bluntly. I'm not jealous. I protested. I'm hurt by the inequality. There's a difference. Heather looked stricken. Do you want me to give it back or something? No, I sighed. It's not your fault, Heather. Then whose fault is it? Dad demanded. Ours, for giving our daughter a nice gift. It's about perspective, I tried to explain. You spend a year's worth of my salary on a car for Heather while knowing that my car is barely functional. Can you not see how that might feel hurtful? You're an adult, Dad repeated, his tone dismissive. Buy your own car. Thomas, Grandma Dorothy's voice came from the doorway, where she stood in her robe, obviously awakened by our raised voices. That's enough. Stay out of this, Mom, Dad said. No, I don't think I will, Grandma replied firmly. Not when you're being unnecessarily harsh. Mom put a hand on Dad's arm, then turned to me. Amber, we understand you're disappointed. But Heather needs our support more than you do right now. You have your career, your apartment. You're doing well on your own. So I'm being penalized for being independent? For working hard and supporting myself? I could feel tears threatening again, but forced them back. Do you know how much I struggle sometimes? My rent went up this year. I'm still paying off student loans. My car is literally dying, and I have no idea how I'm going to afford to replace it. The silence that followed told me these were things my parents had never considered. You never mentioned any of this, Dad finally said, his tone slightly less combative. Because I was trying to be the responsible adult you raised me to be, I replied. I didn't want to burden you with my problems. But that doesn't mean I don't have them. Heather had tears in her eyes now. I didn't know, Amber. I'm sorry. It's not your fault, I repeated, meaning it. I'm happy for you. Really. I needed to be seen too. The kitchen had grown crowded as other family members, awakened by the commotion, gathered in the doorway. Aunt Martha, Uncle Paul, my cousins, all watching the drama unfold with uncomfortable expressions. I think I should go, I said, reaching for my bag. I need some space. Don't be ridiculous, Dad said. It's the day after Christmas. Where are you going to go? Home, I replied simply. To my apartment. In that car? Dad asked skeptically. After everything you just said about it barely running? I'll manage, I said stiffly, heading for the door. I always do. I walked out to my Honda, throwing my bag onto the passenger seat before sliding behind the wheel. My hands shook as I inserted the key into the ignition and turned. The engine made a grinding noise, then nothing. I tried again. Click, click, click. Of course this would happen now, in front of the whole family, who had followed me onto the porch to watch my dramatic exit. I closed my eyes and rested my forehead against the steering wheel, humiliation complete. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, unable to face getting out of the car and admitting defeat. The cold seeped through my coat as I stared at the useless key in the ignition, tears finally spilling over. A gentle tap on the window startled me. I looked up to see Grandma Dorothy bundled in her coat, concern written across her face. Reluctantly, I opened the door. It won't start, I said unnecessarily. Grandma nodded. I guessed as much. Come back inside, dear. It's freezing out here. I can't go back in there right now. Then we'll sit out here until you're ready, she said, settling herself into the passenger seat with surprising agility for her age. Though I wouldn't mind if you turned on the car heater. The car is dead, Grandma, I reminded her, wiping my eyes. No heater. Uh, well, we'll just have to keep each other warm then, she said, patting my hand. Now, tell me what's really going on. This isn't just about a car, is it? Grandma Dorothy sat beside me in my dead car, seemingly unbothered by the cold or the awkwardness of the situation. Through the windshield, I could see my family had retreated inside, giving us privacy, or perhaps simply escaping the winter chill. I feel so stupid, I admitted, staring at my hands in my lap. Having a meltdown over Christmas gifts at my age. It's not about the gifts, Grandma said wisely. It's about feeling valued. Seen. I looked at her in surprise. Yes, exactly. She nodded. You know, your father was the oldest of three. I know, I said, unsure where she was going with this. What you might not know is that he often felt the way you do now. His brother got a car for graduation. Your father got a watch. His sister got a lavish Sweet 16 party. Your father's birthday was a small family dinner. I stared at her. Dad felt overlooked? Very much so, Grandma confirmed. Your grandfather and I thought we were doing the right thing. Thomas was so responsible, so capable. We believed he didn't need as much from us as his siblings did. She sighed. We were wrong, of course. Everyone needs to feel special, valued. Then how can he do the same thing to me? I asked, bewildered. Because sometimes we repeat patterns without realizing it, she explained. Your father probably doesn't even see the parallel. We sat in silence for a moment, watching our breath form small clouds in the cold car. What did Dad do about feeling overlooked? I finally asked. He moved out at 18 and barely spoke to us for 2 years, Grandma said matter-of-factly. It took a lot of honest conversations and some family therapy to repair the relationship. I don't want that to happen, I said quietly. Then don't let it, she replied. Break the pattern. Speak your truth without storming off, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Our conversation was interrupted by a tow truck pulling into the driveway, its yellow lights flashing against the snow. Did you call a tow truck? I asked, confused. Your father did, Grandma said. While we've been talking. A young man in coveralls approached the car. Amber Wilson, he asked through my open door. That's me. I'm Brandon from Mike's Auto Service. Your dad called about a car that won't start. Yes, that's this one, I confirmed, getting out to give him access. Brandon assessed the situation quickly, checking under the hood and attempting to start the engine himself. Bad news, he said after a few minutes. Your alternator is shot, and there's a problem with the starter too. From what I can see, there are multiple issues that need addressing. How much would it cost to fix? I asked, dreading the answer. Brandon gave me a sympathetic look. For a car this age with these issues? Probably more than it's worth, honestly. Looking at $1,500 minimum, and that's just to get it running again. Doesn't address the transmission issues you mentioned or any other problems that might come up. Grandma Dorothy, who had joined us outside the car, spoke up. I'll pay for the repairs, Amber. No, Grandma, I said firmly. That's very generous, but no. I need to solve this myself. There's nothing wrong with accepting help, she pointed out. I know, I agreed. But in this case, I think I need to handle it on my own. It's not just about the car anymore. She studied my face, then nodded in understanding. That's your choice to make. I respect it. Brandon, the tow truck driver, had been discreetly adjusting his equipment during our exchange. So, where am I taking the vehicle? Back to the city with you, or to a local shop? I glanced back at the house, where I could see faces peeking through the windows. To Mike's Auto Service for an official assessment, please. I'll arrange transportation back to the city. As Brandon hooked up my car to the tow truck, Grandma put her arm around my shoulders. You're making a statement, aren't you? I guess I am, I admitted. I'm not going to blow up the relationship with my family. But I'm also not going to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. That's a mature decision, she approved. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting people off. It means teaching them how to treat you properly. The tow truck was ready to go. I hugged Grandma tightly. Thank you for understanding. I've had many more years than you to figure these things out, she said with a small smile. Now, are you coming back inside to talk to your parents, or would you like me to drive you somewhere? I looked at the house again, considering my options. I think I need a little more time. Is there a coffee shop in town where I could sit for a while? I'll do one better, Grandma said. I'll drive you to Mike's auto service. You can talk directly with the mechanic, then decide your next steps. I nodded gratefully, and we walked to her sensible Subaru parked at the curb. As we pulled away, I saw my mother step onto the porch, watching us leave. I raised my hand in a small wave, not a goodbye, but an acknowledgement. She returned the gesture hesitantly. At the mechanic's shop, Brandon had already briefed the service manager about my car's condition. The official assessment was even worse than his initial take. The Honda needed extensive repairs that would cost nearly $2,800. The transmission is going, the mechanic explained. And there are engine issues that will only get worse. Plus, the electrical system is showing its age. Honestly, with a vehicle this old and with this many miles, you're better off looking for a replacement. I thanked him for his honesty and stepped outside to call Julia. I need a favor, I said when she answered. Can you pick me up from my parents' town? I'm stranded. Your car died, she asked. What happened with your family? It's a long story, I sighed. One I'd rather tell you in person. Text me the address, Julia said without hesitation. I'll be there in 2 hours. After hanging up, I turned to Grandma. My friend is coming to get me. You don't have to wait. I don't mind, she insisted. Let's get some lunch while you wait. There's a decent diner across the street. Over sandwiches and coffee, I filled Grandma in on more details about my financial situation, the student loans, the rising rent, the stagnant salary that barely kept pace with inflation. Have you considered looking for a better-paying position? She asked. I've been at Cornerstone for 3 years, I explained. I'm due for a promotion soon, which would come with a significant raise. If I leave now, I'd be starting over somewhere else. Sometimes starting over isn't a bad thing, Grandma observed. But I understand wanting to see things through. She reached into her purse and pulled out a checkbook. I want you to have this, she said, writing out a check and sliding it across the table. I looked down at the amount, $5,000, and shook my head. Grandma, I can't accept this. You can and you will, she said firmly. Consider it compensation for all the birthdays and Christmases where things weren't equal. Or consider it a loan if that makes you feel better. But take it. I hesitated, my pride warring with practicality. I'll pay you back, I finally said, accepting the check. With interest. We'll discuss terms later, she said with a smile. Now, tell me about this promotion you're working toward. By the time Julia arrived in her reliable Toyota, Grandma and I had spent nearly 2 hours talking, not just about my career and finances, but about her life, her marriage to Grandpa Frank, and the wisdom she had accumulated over her 78 years. As we said goodbye in the parking lot, she held me close. Remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Thank you for everything today, I said, fighting tears again. That's what grandmothers are for, she replied. Now, call me when you get home safely. And let me know what you decide about your car situation. As Julia and I drove away, I looked back to see Grandma standing tall despite her years, raising her hand in farewell. Something had shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, but alongside it was a new determination. It was time to take control of my life in ways I had been postponing. So, Julia said once we were on the highway, "Are you going to tell me what happened with the family Christmas?" I took a deep breath and began to explain, feeling lighter with each mile that passed between me and my parents' house. By the time we reached my apartment, I had a plan forming. Not just for addressing my car situation, but for the larger issues in my life as well. 2 weeks after the Christmas debacle, I sat at my small kitchen table surrounded by spreadsheets, calculator in hand. My laptop displayed my bank account balance, which now included Grandma Dorothy's generous $5,000, money I was determined to use wisely. I had created multiple budget scenarios, one focusing on paying down my student loans more aggressively, another prioritizing a car purchase, and a third that balanced both needs. After careful consideration, I had decided on the third option, using $4,000 as a down payment on a reliable used car and putting the remaining $1,000 toward my highest interest student loan. The past 2 weeks had been a period of intense reflection. I had received several text messages from my mother, mostly surface-level check-ins that carefully avoided any mention of the Christmas morning argument. Dad had called once, leaving a voicemail that sounded more annoyed than concerned. Heather had texted several times, her messages a mixture of apologies and attempts at normal sisterly conversation. I had responded politely to all of them but maintained emotional distance as I sorted through my feelings and priorities. The only family member I had spoken to at length was Grandma Dorothy, who called every few days to check on my progress. Monday morning brought a new opportunity at work. I had scheduled a meeting with my boss, Derek, to discuss my career trajectory at Cornerstone Marketing. "You wanted to see me?" Derek asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Yes," I said, more confidently than I felt. "I wanted to talk about my future with the company." Derek raised an eyebrow. "Sounds serious. You're not leaving us, are you?" "That depends," I replied. "I've been assistant manager for nearly 2 years now. I believe I've demonstrated my value to the team and the clients. I'd like to discuss the timeline for advancement to the manager position." Derek leaned back, studying me. "I'll be honest, Amber. We were planning to review your position in the summer, maybe look at a promotion then." 6 months from now, I noted. "And what would that promotion entail?" "The usual. More responsibility, title change, modest salary increase." "Define modest," I pressed, surprising myself with my directness. Derek looked slightly taken aback but answered, "Probably in the 5 to 7% range." I had done my research. The industry's standard for a promotion from assistant manager to manager is 10 to 15%, particularly when taking on client management responsibilities. "Where did you hear that?" he asked. "I did my homework," I said simply. "I know what I'm worth, Derek. And I'm ready for more responsibility now, not in 6 months." There was a moment of silence as we regarded each other across the desk. "What exactly are you proposing?" he finally asked. I outlined my vision, taking over management of the Parker account, our second largest client, but one that had been somewhat neglected recently. I presented a preliminary strategy for reinvigorating the relationship and expanding our services to them. "I've already drafted some ideas," I said, sliding a folder across the desk. "I believe I could increase their annual spending with us by at least 20% within 6 months. Derek flipped through the documents, his expression shifting from skepticism to interest. "This is actually quite good. Very thorough. I know the Parker brand inside and out," I stated. "I've been doing most of the work on their account anyway. It makes sense to formalize the relationship." After further discussion, Derek made a decision. "Let's do a trial. You take point on Parker for the next 3 months. If you can show measurable improvement in the relationship and begin to implement these strategies, we'll revisit the promotion conversation in April rather than summer. And I'll advocate for the higher end of the salary increase range." It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was progress. "Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to prove myself." "Don't thank me yet," Derek warned. "The Parker account has challenges. That's why it's been underperforming." "I'm aware," I assured him. "And I'm ready." As I left his office, I felt a surge of confidence. For too long, I had been the responsible one who didn't make waves, who accepted what was offered without pushing for more. That pattern was changing, starting now. The next step in my plan involved a visit to my credit union. I had researched car financing options extensively and determined that with my credit score and the $4,000 down payment, I could secure a reasonable loan for a used vehicle. The loan officer, Sean, reviewed my application and financial information. "You're in good shape credit-wise," he confirmed. "What kind of vehicle are you looking at?" "Something reliable but not flashy," I replied. "Probably a Toyota or Honda with low mileage. My budget ceiling is $15,000 total." "That's very reasonable," he nodded approvingly. "Too many people come in wanting to finance vehicles way beyond their means." "I need transportation, not a status symbol," I said, thinking of Heather's BMW. After completing the paperwork for pre-approval, I felt another piece of my plan falling into place. The loan terms were manageable within my budget, especially if the Parker account led to my promotion. That evening, I had my first therapy session with Dr. Miller, a counselor I had found through my company's employee assistance program. It had taken courage to make the appointment, but I recognized that my issues with my family had deeper roots that needed addressing. "So, what brings you here today?" Dr. Miller asked after we had gone through the initial intake process. I hesitated, then decided to be completely honest. I recently had a blow-up with my family over what might seem like a trivial issue, Christmas gifts. But it exposed a lifetime of feeling less valued than my younger sister. Dr. Miller nodded encouragingly. Often, what appears trivial on the surface has much deeper significance. Over the next hour, I described the Christmas morning scene, the history of disparate treatment, and my conflicted feelings about asserting my needs versus maintaining family harmony. "It sounds like you've spent much of your life seeking validation from your parents," Dr. Miller observed. "Working hard, being responsible, not making waves, all in hopes that they would finally see and appreciate you." The accuracy of her assessment brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Yes, and no matter what I achieve, it's never quite enough. "What if," she suggested gently, "you stopped seeking their validation altogether? What if you decided that your worth isn't determined by their recognition of it?" The question hung in the air between us, both terrifying and liberating. "I'm not sure I know how to do that," I admitted. "That's what we'll work on," she assured me. "It's a process, not an overnight change." As I left the therapy session, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom, just checking in. "Hope all is well. Love you." The old me would have immediately responded with reassurances that everything was fine. Instead, I put the phone back in my pocket. I would respond later when I had processed my feelings about the contact. The following weekend, I found myself at a used car dealership, accompanied by Julia for moral support and an extra set of eyes. "What about this one?" Julia pointed to a red Toyota Corolla. "It's within your budget and has relatively low mileage." We examined the vehicle, and I arranged for a test drive. Behind the wheel, I felt a sense of ownership and independence that had nothing to do with the modest car itself and everything to do with the fact that I was making this decision on my own terms. The negotiation process was intimidating but empowering. I had researched the fair market value and stood firm when the salesperson tried to upsell me on features I didn't need or want. "I understand you have a business to run," I said calmly when he seemed frustrated by my unwillingness to budge. "But I know exactly what this vehicle is worth, and that's what I'm prepared to pay." In the end, I drove off the lot in a 3-year-old Toyota with 42,000 miles, having negotiated a price $800 below their initial offer. The monthly payment fit comfortably within my adjusted budget, and the reliable transportation provided immediate peace of mind. "You should see your face right now," Julia commented as we stopped for coffee to celebrate. "You look different." "Different how?" I asked. "More confident. Like you've just slain a dragon or something." I laughed, but she was right. Every step I had taken in the past 2 weeks, from the conversation with my boss to the therapy session to purchasing the car, had been a move towards self-determination. I sent Grandma a photo of the car, I told Julia. She said it was a sensible choice for a sensible woman and that she was proud of me. "And what about your parents? Have you told them?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I'm still figuring out what kind of relationship I want with them going forward." "Well, whatever you decide," Julia said, raising her coffee cup in a toast, "here's to Amber Wilson, dragon slayer and independent woman." I clinked my cup against hers, feeling for the first time in weeks that the pain of Christmas morning had led to something valuable after all, the beginning of a new chapter where I defined my own worth. 3 months passed quickly. Spring had arrived, bringing with it cherry blossoms, warmer temperatures, and significant changes in my life. The Parker account had flourished under my management, with a 15% increase in their marketing spend already and negotiations for an expanded service package well underway. My Toyota had proven reliable and economical, making my commute and everyday life considerably less stressful. I had continued therapy with Dr. Miller, working through deep-seated patterns and building healthier boundaries. My apartment, while still modest, now featured small improvements that reflected my growing sense of self-worth, new curtains that brightened the living room, a comfortable reading chair I'd found at a vintage store, and several thriving plants that gave the space life. Communication with my family had been limited but civil. Mom texted regularly, and I responded in kind, keeping conversations light. Heather and I had exchanged a few calls, carefully avoiding any mention of the BMW or the Christmas drama. Dad remained distant, though he had sent a brief email in February asking about my car situation. I had replied with basic information about the Toyota but received no response. Then came the call from Mom in early April. "Your father's birthday is next weekend," she said after our usual pleasantries. "We're having a small family dinner on Saturday. It would mean a lot if you could come." I hesitated, conflicting emotions surfacing. "Who will be there?" "Just the immediate family, plus Grandma and Grandpa," she replied. "Amber, I know things have been strained. But it's your father's 60th. Please consider it." After discussing it with Dr. Miller in our next session, I decided to attend. "It's an opportunity to practice your new boundaries in a time-limited situation," she pointed out. "You can always leave if it becomes too much." The drive to my parents' house that Saturday was very different from my Christmas journey. Instead of a struggling Honda filled with anticipation and hope, I was in my reliable Toyota, mentally prepared for whatever the evening might bring. I had even rehearsed some responses to potential difficult questions or situations. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Heather's BMW parked near the garage. The sight no longer provoked the pain it once had. It was just my sister's car now, not a symbol of parental preference. Mom answered the door, enveloping me in a tentative hug. "You look wonderful," she said, stepping back to examine me. "There's something different about you." "Thanks," I replied simply. "Happy birthday, Dad," I added, turning to my father who stood a few feet behind her. His expression was difficult to read, a mixture of his usual stoicism with something that might have been regret. "Thank you for coming, Amber." The early part of the evening passed in a dance of polite conversation and careful avoidance of sensitive topics. Grandma Dorothy, bless her, provided much of the social glue, telling stories about Dad's childhood that had us all laughing despite the underlying tension. After dinner, as Mom brought out the birthday cake, Heather nudged me. "Is that a new sweater? It looks really good on you." "Thanks," I smiled. I treated myself after my promotion came through. "Promotion?" Dad looked up from the head of the table. "You didn't mention that." "It just happened last week," I explained. "I'm now the account manager for our second largest client. Comes with a nice raise and more responsibility." "That's wonderful, dear," Mom exclaimed. "We should toast to that too." As everyone raised their glasses, I caught Grandma giving me an approving nod. She had been my confidant throughout the past months, always supportive but never intrusive. After cake and coffee, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Dad as I helped clean up. "Your mother tells me you bought a Toyota," he said, breaking the awkward silence between us. "Yes. It's been great, reliable, good gas mileage." He nodded, running water into the sink. "Sensible choice." I waited, sensing he had more to say. "Amber," he finally continued, his eyes fixed on the dishes he was rinsing, "your mother and I have been talking about Christmas." "Dad, we don't have to." "No, let me finish," he interrupted. "We didn't handle things well. We didn't see how our actions would affect you." The admission surprised me. "Thank you for saying that." He turned off the water and faced me directly. "I'm not good at this, acknowledging mistakes. But I am sorry." "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "I reacted strongly too." "You had reason to," he conceded. "My mother, your grandmother, helped me see that." She reminded me of some things from my own childhood that I'd forgotten. I thought of what Grandma had told me about Dad feeling overlooked by his parents. She mentioned something about that to me too. Dad looked surprised. "She did?" I nodded. "She's very wise." "That she is," he agreed. "Look, I can't promise we'll always get everything right. But I want you to know that your mother and I are proud of you. Sometimes we take your strength and independence for granted." The words I had longed to hear for so long now washed over me with less impact than I would have expected. They were welcome, certainly, but my sense of self no longer hinged on his approval. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "That means a lot." As we rejoined the others in the living room, I noticed Heather watching me with an uncertain expression. When Dad became engaged in conversation with Grandpa, She moved to sit beside me on the couch. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. "Maybe outside?" We slipped out to the back porch, the spring evening mild and fragrant with blooming flowers. "I wanted to apologize," Heather began. "I was oblivious at Christmas. I got so caught up in my excitement that I didn't think about your situation at all." "It's okay," I assured her. "It wasn't your fault." "Still," she insisted, "I should have been more aware." "And after you left, Grandma really let Mom and Dad have it. She made them see how unfair the whole thing was." I smiled, imagining Grandma Dorothy taking my parents to task. "She's been a great support." "I've been thinking a lot about how different our experiences growing up were," Heather continued. "From my perspective, I was always trying to measure up to you, the smart, responsible one who always did everything right." This perspective shift caught me off guard. "Really? I always thought you were the favorite." Heather shook her head. "The favorite? No way. Dad was always talking about how I should be more like you. Why can't you be organized like your sister? Why can't you plan ahead like Amber?" It was constant. We looked at each other, both seeing our shared childhood through new eyes. "Families are complicated," I finally said. "Tell me about it," Heather agreed. "So, are we okay?" "We're okay," I confirmed, giving her a hug. "Just maybe don't talk about your car's heated seats in front of me," I added with a laugh. "Deal," she promised. "And maybe someday you can teach me how to budget like you do." The real world is coming for me after graduation, and I'm pretty sure Mom and Dad won't be buying me a condo. Back inside, I found Grandma Dorothy watching me from her armchair. I sat on the ottoman beside her. "You seem at peace," she observed. "I'm glad to see it." "I am," I agreed. "Things aren't perfect, but they're better. And more importantly, I'm better." "That's the real victory," she said, patting my hand. "Not whether they change, but how you grow." As the evening wound down, I prepared to leave, exchanging hugs with everyone, even a somewhat awkward one with Dad. "Don't be a stranger," Mom urged. "Maybe we could have lunch sometime next week?" "I'd like that," I replied, and meant it. Driving home in my Toyota, I reflected on the journey of the past few months. The Christmas morning that had seemed so devastating had ultimately been the catalyst for profound change in my life. The pain had forced me to examine patterns I might otherwise have continued to accept indefinitely. True independence, I had learned, wasn't just financial, though that mattered too. It was the ability to define my own worth, to set boundaries that protected my well-being, and to recognize that while family love was important, it didn't have to be perfect to be valuable. My new car wasn't a luxury vehicle with all the latest features. It didn't turn heads or impress strangers. But it was mine, chosen and purchased through my own efforts. It represented a new chapter where my decisions, my achievements, and my happiness were determined by my own standards, not anyone else's. Sometimes, it turns out, getting nothing can lead to gaining everything that truly matters. Have you ever experienced a situation where apparent disappointment led to unexpected growth? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this journey resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more authentic stories about family, independence, and personal growth. Thank you for sharing this path with me, and remember, your worth is defined by you, not by the gifts you receive or even the opinions of those you love. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.